Let's get started. Welcome again to my panel. Nichi Hodgson, James Woudhuysen and Jason Reed. Right, so first I want to talk about this whole idea. England, not Scotland or Wales, we're carrying on. We're not going to close up, as some of the others are doing. Boris has decided that we've waited, we've got the data. And I'm wondering, what are your thoughts? I'm going to start with you, Nichi. What do you make of this? Is he right?
Well, Boris Johnson's political career depends on him doing this, and it has done for some time. So I think whatever he's going to say publicly and whatever is being reported, the reality is that he would lose leadership if he had shut down the country. So because of that, it's very difficult to know if what Boris has decided to do has been guided by appropriate science and appropriate data, or whether it's just part of his political machinations.
What do you make of this, James?
Well, I don't know that he's made the right call. I think the considerations that you adduce are right. He is obviously influenced by the more than 100 Tory backbenchers who gave him a lot of heat just a few days ago. I don't know that he's really following events with the kind of precision, the neutrality, and the attention to detail that we'd all like. But hey, he's Boris.
Yeah, he's not famed for his attention to detail.
So you couldn't give him credit if it is the right call. You think that he's doing it for a different reason altogether. It's not actually the fact that it might be the right decision to make.
I don't think that he, when I hear the phrase Boris Johnson making the right call, I have a picture of him reading up, taking notes, balancing the evidence, consulting neutral opinion and all of that. I'm not sure he's doing any of that, really. He's working from minute to minute. That's my impression.
You think what do you think?
I agree with James's assessment of Boris's character. I think he makes it up as he goes along. He's more worried about what the newspaper headlines will say the next day than anything else, and the health consequences or the political consequences of what he's doing. In this case, I think almost by accident, he's made the right call by not introducing new restrictions.
So even if he does the right thing and he gets it right in your eyes, it's still by accident. You cannot appear to give him credit for the fact that he's held off on a decision. Remember, Chris Whitty did say something quite opposite. Some people would say that Chris Whitty was suggesting that we should start to close things down and do this, that and the other. And Boris sort of left it and said, no, he took a call that was slightly different.
Well, I think what Boris could and should do if he was laying down a marker and providing the proper leadership would be to say, at this point, we're going to have no more restrictions for, say, the next 6 months unless something dramatic happens, like they did after Freedom Day earlier this year when Sajid Javid said it's completely irreversible, we can never go back. And, of course, Omicron came along and ruined that. But Boris, he just, as I say, he makes it up as he goes along. He's not capable of looking beyond the immediate.
Is it realistic for him to put a time frame of 6 months? Because then we'll end up in the situation that you just described there. If he says in 6 months, then he'll be doing the backtracking that you just described, which wasn't helpful at all.
The problem is that we're never going to reach 100% immunity from COVID. Impossible. We're never going to have zero COVID. And so I think there comes a point where you have to draw a line. And I think we have passed that point. Omicron is exactly what you'd expect as a virus mutates. It's more transmissible, but milder. It's much less likely to kill you or to create serious illness. And so this is surely the point at which we say the costs of restrictions now outweigh the benefits.
But Boris has made that call. Nicola Sturgeon, on the other hand, has not made that call at all. And neither has Mark Drakeford. In fact, Mark Drakeford even cancelled or, put his regulations meant that a park run, which is outdoors, couldn't go ahead. I mean, does that sound reasonable? Well,
it's obviously completely ridiculous. And, you wonder what planet he's on. But I'm very struck by Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, £5 million to help nightclubs in Scotland. That's about a round of drinks in Glasgow, nearly. It's not going to solve anything. And I think we're still too nice to Boris, backed up by his acolytes in the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats. He has ensured a really censorious atmosphere in schools, in shops, about the NHS, about mask wearing, about physical contact. And then now we've got this complete rash of testing. You can't go anywhere without a test. test. You know, you get to the bus stop, take a test.
Well, you can't get a test.
Well,
And-
yes,
well,
exactly.
you
You can get a test.
You'd be lucky to get
first.
Yeah, well, there's that. So, it's a classic Boris thing, you know.
But it's not his fault. Look, hang on, but the test, OK, yeah, but we have to be honest here. Is the test, the fact that you can't get a test, his fault? I mean, it's more to do with the whole supply issue, and now we've got a global shortage of these tests as well. Is it more to do with management?
But that's also his fault, isn't it? So it's like if you're getting intelligence from your ministers or from, you know, scientists saying we think there's this thing coming, the first thing you do is then order more tests because you pre-plan. We've had 2.5 years pretty much of getting used to this situation, and he hasn't improved in his timing, and it's his timing that is crucial to getting on top of the pandemic. He never takes an action quick enough.
What about the booster campaign then? He's got the boosters going.
The booster thing, maybe he's going to get that right this time. I mean, the numbers are looking good so far.
But I thought surely our vaccination rollout was good, or was that not? We're not crediting Boris.
It was good, but the problem is then we didn't support COVAX. We didn't help the countries that desperately needed vaccines. The whole reason we have Omicron is because we didn't support COVAX and vaccinating other countries.
I hear you, but Omicron could end up being a good thing. I mean, look, is not part of the equation of this. Some people remain unvaccinated, some people are vaccinated. So in the end, you end up with the soup of sort of COVID going about that tries to evade certain things and others. And in the end, you end up with something like Omicron, which maybe it would not have mutated in that way had it not been for people.
But it's like how many lives and how many livelihoods are lost before we get to that point, isn't it? Because, you know, we could say, Omicron's going to finish off COVID. This is perfect. This is exactly what we needed to happen. But at what human cost? We didn't have to have this kind of pandemic.
Do you not
had a different one.
Do you not think the virus has its own sort of lifespan, and we kind of this couldn't have been changed in any way, even a vaccination progress, because our process of vaccination has been pretty quick.
Well, it reacts to stimulus, doesn't it? It's reacting to the vaccine, so it's a shapeshifter. It reacts to what we do. What we do matters and affects the progress of Omicron or any other variant.
On South Africa, which was one of the least vaccinated places on the earth.
Because we didn't support them being vaccinated.
No, but what you said just there was that Omicron responded to the fact that we have a vaccine, but didn't, because it came from somewhere where people are hardly vaccinated at all. So my point is that surely the lack of vaccinations and the lack of people being vaccinated and the whole soup of it created the situation that Omicron exists.
But it's a combination of those factors. It's not one thing or the other, is it? It's the fact there are some vaccinated people and some non-vaccinated people. All these, we can't know at this point what one factor has now brought about this new pathogen.
Exactly, that's true. But at the end of the day, the move to leave England open seems like a good idea to me.
It seems politically astute. It seems politically prudent. Above anything else.
Is that all you'd put it down to? Political prudence?
Quite possibly. Look, what it comes down to is this. If we can't be free now, that means we can never be free again. At some point, we have to learn to live with COVID. There's no way around that. If Boris Johnson really believed in the values he talks about of freedom and personal responsibility, then he would be laying down a marker very clearly and saying, as I said before, no more restrictions, and that's the end of it.
But that's what he said here. It's the others. So it's Mark Drakeford, it's Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon, she was literally going across that because there was a chequebook. You know, wasn't she, really?
Well, but we're not out of the woods yet. That's the point. You know, if you're being unfair to them, you're saying that they're being, you know, overly worrying. But if you're being fair to them, you say that they're being well-meaning. If heavy-handed, they're actually putting life before anything else. And with her signing blank cheques, at least she is realising that you cannot shut down businesses, particularly hospitality businesses, at this time of the year without giving them a lifeline.
Boris hasn't shut them down. He's basically done what we said all along, which was that we want to make our own choices.
But
so
that's the worst thing for the businesses.
But they're businesses, aren't they? So they are capitalist businesses that work with supply and demand.
They are.
Therefore, you know, at some point they're going to have to start living in the environment.
But some businesses have suffered more than others.
The thing is, we've got to rise above the detail, right? And the fact is, it's not all about Boris. That's a Labour Party trope, right? It's ridiculous to personalise it in the way that he has been personalised for so long. But the real thing is that Drakeford and Sturgeon and arguably Boris, they're against parties. They're against people having fun. They're against drinking. They're against
James,
nightclubs.
we'll come back to that, actually, because we've got some breaking news